When was the first instance that rep was not fulfilling your artistic needs? Do you remember that time?
I don't think, I think we should rephrase that question. I think it wouldn't be fair to say that it didn't fulfill so much as I think we grew. One grows as an artist. And when you grow, you look for other ways to learn already. And I think we've grown. That's natural. That's a cycle of life.
Yeah.
And we grew.
I think to add to what Audie said, I think because we grew up in rep, not being able to speak back. You do what you're told. So you do what you're told. You do how you are told how to attack it. You're told how to deliver it. So there was no input, artistic input. I remember.
You had to do what you were told.
Yeah, I remember. If Bebot was happy, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So, but then I was also very young and I didn't know better. But I think it got to the point where we did get smarter and we had opinions. And you were not allowed to speak up. So I think that's the point where we said, okay, we've kind of outgrown our parents.
I remember Bart Gingona and I going through our CV, and I mean, we were going Tom, Dick, Harry, Tom, Dick, Harry, Tom, Dick, Harry, Tom, Dick, Harry, and we're like, well, where are the Macbeths, where are the Hamlets, where are the Chekhovs, where are the Ibsens, and because Bebot inspired us to grow. We did grow, and it wasn't there. So, we had to look for avenues to be able to find our Macbeths and our Hamlets and our Ibsens.
Yeah, because theater nowadays is very collaborative. You collaborate with your director. You discuss your attack.
I think repertory kasi was a family. And it was a mom and pop company.
Yeah.
Which meant you do what your papa and your mama told you to do, and you obey most of the time. But an artist's growth isn't that way. An artist's growth can take you anywhere and everywhere. In my particular, and of course, when your parents want you, like any parent wants you to run your family business.
Yeah.
Diyan ka lang, hindi ka pwedeng lumabas kasi that's expected of you.
Hindi mo pwede ibahin.
Yeah, your family eh. And plus, you stay within family. You can't get out of there. And I remember for me, they kept saying I was a golden boy, but it started to, the gold started to chip away when I started to get interested in Philippine musicals. And I think I was one of the first to try Filipino outside. And I auditioned for Tanghalang Filipino because I had been tipped by Tats Manahan, who was at that time with Johnny Manahan, that they were doing a rock opera at CCP. And it was going to be a rock opera based on Florante Lara. And I went out there and I auditioned. I couldn't speak Tagalog, but that was the challenge. And I just got so into it. I was there with Noni Bencamino. He was also part
Michael.
Later na si Michael, but ang una talaga was me and Noni who got into the cast. And I remember we started rehearsals. We were doing Arsenic and Old Days.
Which I thought was perfectly cast.
Yeah.
The first Arsenic was perfectly cast. It was one of those gems of a show.
Pero si Noni at that time was already... No, pero Menchu, you were the first Elaine. The one I'm talking about is the version of Monique.
The second one. Okay.
Because I had come back from the States already.
Okay.
And when I came back from the States, I had grown na.
Yeah. Nag-New York ka na nun eh.
Nag-New York na ako eh. Ayoko na bumalik sa the same old. And it had nothing to do with me not being satisfied there. I had just grown.
Yeah.
And when you get exposed to the States and you see all these white people playing white roles, all of a sudden you feel like I'm Filipino. You know? It's parang weird that I am playing white. We grew up playing white roles.
Or putting on a British accent.
Yeah, Western roles. And all of a sudden, I got very interested because I realized when I was in New York, Filipino ka.
Yeah.
Asian ka.
I've seen you with red hair, remember?
Right.
People would dye their hair so that they look...
Red hair.
For West Side Story.
And Billy Bigelow, she made you curl your hair.
Curl my hair. But coming back from New York expanded my desire to look for identity, and therefore when I had the opportunity to do my first Filipino, I jumped at it. Noni and I were coming from rehearsals of Florante Laura, and we went to the rehearsal of Arsenic and Old Days.
Okay.
Andun pa lang tayo sa lobby, andun pa lang kami sa lobby ng Insular Life. She gave me a complete dress down. That me and Ronnie. I mean, me and Nonnie.
Was Nonnie in
He
Arsenic?
was at Arsenic. He was
I
playing
see.
just one of the cops.
Okay,
Nonnie
okay.
was young at that time. He
Okay.
did not become Nonnie Buencamino yet.
That is
So he was
today.
just kind of like a chorus boy. So he played a bit part, but she gave us a complete dress down. And here's what finally just really hurt me, and I realized, okay, it's time for me to go. When she says, no theater out there counts except repertory. And I said, okay, time to go. But I understand where she's coming from, and I'm not dissing B, but I love her to death.
The beer! The beer!
No, but seriously,
Warn me! I cover it!
I told you every time it's controversial, you're supposed to go underwater, so I did this
No,
for
look
you.
at Jaime go!
No, but
It tastes like
Maybe I'll
chlorine!
just do that. Don't die, but just go, oh, look at Jaime go!
no, but seriously, I mean, the reason I understood where she was coming from, she was protective of her territory because she had built this thing.
Yeah.
And you want your
you
kids
also,
to stay
yeah,
in.
and you also have to remember, Odds, to add to that, because we understand
It's like
her
any
now.
parent.
Yeah, because she trained us.
Yeah.
We came into rep when there was no ADs. If it was acting, it was b-boy. If it was music, it was baby. So you gotta learn your stuff. Don't go in there and make the same mistakes because they had no patience. And so that's how we learned. So the fact is, she put in so much. She worked so hard on us that it would hurt her when we would leave. And I understand that because she trained us for the company. So it was it really did hurt her. And I totally see it now. I didn't see it then,
It's interesting.
but I see it now.
It's interesting because I don't think they get it. I mean, they can because they were never in a situation like that where someone was so protective / possessive
Yeah.
of what you did.
Yeah.
Mind you, that was
Stage.
not only endemic in rep. Every theater company at that time, Nel, sa generasyon yun, hindi nyo nakita to. But every theater company, PETA, UP, those were the active companies there.
They didn't cross pollinate.
Yeah, nobody
Cross-pollinate.
crossed over.
Because these were put up by people who had ideology. They were following a certain belief system. And you never cross. Teatro Pilipino of Rolando Tino, right? Tony Babesa at UP, right? Cecile Guidote and Lino Broca at
PETA,
PETA.
yeah.
You would never, and Bebop. With
And
her
each
English
company had
theater,
a style.
had a
A
style.
style of its own.
We thought at that time they hated each other because they would talk bad of each other all
Oh
the
yeah,
time.
they were.
Oh,
It was only later on.
You
we
never
found out-
even watched their shows.
Yeah, but I only later on found out when they were older that they actually all worked together when they were young people.
Rolando Tino directed Rep's
Yeah.
first play.
Yeah. But at that time, when this was happening, they were fiercely competitive with each other and completely territorial. So that whenever you cross somewhere else, it was like a big, parang traitor ka. There was a
Yeah,
big treason
Yeah.
of sorts.
And we all went through that because at one point we all left.
Yeah.
So
At different times.
and it was very hard to come back.
But your generation has changed, and I don't want to give credit to ourselves because we broke the mold.
Actually, that is my question here. That now that the three of you are the Bibos and the Tita Babies for us, do you understand them? Well, I mean, position as leaders.
We become the Gorangs.
We're the Gurangs. We used to call them the Gurs.
Yeah, we used to call them
Well,
the Gorangs.
And
You
it
don't
looks like
wanna
we're
know
that
I
what
don't
now.
think I like that.
Evil.
Evil?
If you don't want to know what we say about you guys,
Oh my God!
You will not, I want to ask you that. You tell us.
You have
really.
to tell us.
but now that you are the role models that we have, and in fact, when Tita Freddy passed away, there kind of is nobody na age-wise after you guys. It's you guys.
Oh
Well,
my
yeah, he's the
God.
older one.
So you accept but
Audie's
it's technically
first.
you guys that we look
Audie's
up to.
first.
Audie's first.
So do you understand Tita Bibot and Tita Baby in a deeper way now? Because
Yes.
you are in those
Yes,
positions.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. That's-
Actually, there are many times we're in prod week, and I sit there going, now I know why she used to scream. Because she gets it
Yeah.
done.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the thing we don't. we may say now I know why she used to scream, but
But we don't. Yeah,
But we don't.
that's
Okay,
actually
okay.
one thing we promised ourselves.
Yeah,
we
that's-
told
that's
ourselves
we.
that. Okay, let me clarify. There is a lot of us that has grown, and there's a lot of us that have not grown. Okay, I would like to think that the three of us are part of that section that has grown and come on, have our own opinions about stuff. But a lot of it is also because we push ourselves to grow. We research, we watch, we go abroad and we watch and we analyze and we sit there. That's why sometimes after a while I get tired, because instead of just sitting and enjoying a show, I'm sitting there analyzing it. And sometimes it gets tedious, but that's how we grow. That's our homework, because this is the craft we're in. But I understand where they were coming from. You have to understand, this was 70s, 80s. Times were very, very different.
Isa pa Menchu, no? Before I lose
But
my-
wait, let me finish.
Sige, sige.
So our thing is, and the three of us have agreed on this, because we grew up being really screamed at. And that was the
It was
only way
cruel.
she knew how. And Monique has said this many times in interviews. And we would come in, as long as Bebot was happy, okay, we're good,
Yeah.
right? So there was no enjoying the craft. There was no discovery. There was no growth in the craft, because
Yeah.
it was all about placing the gurangs. But I understand that now. I see where they were coming from, and I don't judge them for that, because that was the way they understood. And I know this because I've read books on Jerome Robbins
Oh,
and
you
Arthur
said- yeah,
Lawrence,
yeah.
and they were exactly the same.
generational.
It's
Generational.
a generational thing.
It's generation.
And that's how they knew how to do things. That is not done anymore today. So I remember the three of us have made a pact that when we do direct or when we teach, we will never, ever put our students in that situation or our cast in that situation. We deal with it on a professional level, and we deal with it in a constructive and positive manner. Because many times, I remember they would have to take me out because I would be a mess, because I had no idea what I was doing wrong. Or many situations.
Yeah.
And I think that's what bonded us.
Our opinions were not particularly.
Yeah.
You were just told, do it.
They weren't interested. in
They
our-
were just told, we were just told, do it the way we did it. We did it.
Yes. Remember in one musical we did where we tried to do research and we were told, don't do research. You're just actors. So we're like,
Yeah.
what? But that's their generation. And it's not just them, because I've read books. Arthur Lawrence was the same. Jerome Robbins was the same. So it's really a generation thing, and that's how I understand now. That's how she got 10 shows done in a season.
Yes.
She would close a show. We had 4 days of
Yes.
tech and open the next show.
And open the next
So if she doesn't go into this,
She had to be a tyrant.
And go,
Yeah,
go, go.
it's not gonna get done.
If you're spending so much time discussing,
Yeah.
you'll never get anything done. Another thing, she was 4'11". She wasn't even 5 feet. And we told you this was more like a social thing when she came into the picture. She told me before the director's job is to will everything together. And this 4'11" woman in a man's world,
In the 70s.
in the 70s where it was a social
Late
exercise and not a profession, had to command attention, had to get to will everything together. So she had to be bigger than Mike.
Yeah.
Ergo the cursing and the
It was a persona she created.
Yes.
it was a persona.
Yes.
Because many times a Bebop would scream and curse and blah blah blah. She would and then she'd turn around, she'd go.
And she'd wink at us.
Yeah, she'd wink
wink.
at us.
She'd
Yeah.
wink at
But
us.
that's how she got
so
it
we
done,
know-
because otherwise, like, I remember theater in the late 60s, 70s it wasn't thought of as a professional thing. It was fun. It was a game. So people didn't take it seriously.
Cavalier. I think I hate people who have a
Yeah,
cavalier.
Cavalier
so
attitude.
if she wanted this lighting effect and they're like, oh, pwede na yan, she would lose it
Yeah.
because she was so passionate.
She hated carpenters who were taking their time. And
Yeah.
she wanted that
and so
set.
she got it done.
You had a week to change the set of a production.
Yeah.
And when she saw
Less, because
Less,
you
we
open
had one day.
You
Thursday.
had 2 days.
Yeah,
Thursday
yeah.
it opened.
It closes on a Sunday. It opens
on a
a
Monday.
tech
Monday is adjustment.
adjustment.
So pagpasok niya pa lang sa adjustment at hindi pa tapos ang set. Ang set, nag-set. Ang set,
Ang
magsiset na siya. Magsiset na talaga siya.
And I remember we would literally be hiding in the dressing rooms. Prod week was hell.
Broad
for us.
week was hell week.
Hell week. Because you would hear her screaming. But that is why rep is so good at doing children's theater in the morning, and then it shifts set and you do the afternoon musical. They have
Comes from that.
perfected that craft.
But it was horrible. And
Oh my God,
and
it
it's
was-
funny
we would
because,
hide.
because I think I'll speak for the three of us. We love Broadway. We love the idea of
Sorry,
recreating.
you love Project now. In
Yeah,
your
now.
perspective.
Now,
Yeah,
now,
now-
I
now
love.
our-
I
our
hate it
perspective-
after opening night because creation stopped.
Yeah, but creating in Broadway is wonderful.
Love it. I
But
love it.
then we were
Oh my
frightened.
God.
And you know the office would push that scenario. Hala,
It's Broadway.
Hala, and we'd be terrified.
And then we had the ano yun? God knows when you're going home. Remember?
GQW.
GQW.
God,
God
knows when. God.
There was no such thing as
There was no such-
overworking.
yeah, there's no. Yeah.
I remember in one musical, Scrooge, we went home.
We watched paint.
We
dry.
watched paint dry.
We-
We
we-
went home.
we watched-
The sun was rising.
Yeah, we
and we
watched
had a
paint
show
dry.
that night because the show was not painted, and we couldn't run until that show was painted.
The
So-
set.
The set, I'm sure. I'm sorry. the
How
set.
many mules have you?
Just two, Jaime.
So Tita, of course, yeah, you 4'11", woman in a man's world in the 70s, had to be the storant of a person to get things
Done.
done. But in your opinion, do you think that rep was created to live a long life,
It should.
or was it
Yeah.
just a product of it?
It has. It's
Although I do
survived.
remember.
I think it's a
Truthful.
product of its time.
No,
Yeah.
I do remember Bebop, and I'll remind you, she really did say this is just for art.
Yeah.
She
Did
put up
she?
rep, yes.
Yeah. She put
And
a
I can
rep-
quote, I don't know the
What
exact
did she-
quote, but I was there when she told me, I created rep just for our generation.
Really?
Yeah. She
Yeah,
had
but
no intention
But it
of.
feels like it.
Yeah, she had
She
no.
did not pass it on.
She did not.
She did
You
not
don't
train.
think about. You don't think about your mortality. You think you're gonna live forever.
When you're doing it.
I think
Well,
about
come to
your
think of it,
mortality
she
all
didn't
the
really
time.
train anyone. She really didn't train anyone. She
Right.
didn't pass
There
the
was
baton
no.
to
Yeah.
anyone.
There was no. What do you call that?
Longevity.
No. What do you call when you pass?
When you pass the baton to somebody else, or you train somebody to take over. I don't think she ever did it.
Yeah.
Although Tita Baby is now in charge of it, but there was nobody in that.
If there's anything that I would think where rep should have improved in is that mindset that you need to pass it on.
Richard Cunanan, I remember very well, said to me, rep was not meant to grow. Rep was meant to survive. It was never meant to grow. I remember he said that. It made so much sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, people that was failing of her. That she did not train anyone
To take over.
I think that is the only failing.
Yeah.
Because if you were mindful of that you wanted to train the next generation, and that you wanted theater to go beyond yourself, it would have changed everything. It would have changed how she related to us.
Yes.
It would have allowed us the freedom to grow as artists.
Yes.
She would have encouraged us to put up our own theater companies, if not under rep it, other,
Yes.
because then you're looking beyond yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
but she didn't do that. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, she cut you down if you were direct.
Although
If-
Tita Joy had said that Bebop did have ideas of who would take over. She never told me who it was, but I remember Tita Joy telling me that Tita Bebop had said so and so, but she never told me who.
it doesn't help if people don't know.
Yeah. I think she knew. I think she told Tita Joy, but it never happened. Because I don't think she also knew.
that is a
Because her
fa-
sickness also came very,
Very
sudden.
quick. She got sick
Sudden.
very quickly.
It was a very sudden sickness.
very sudden.
So she was completely unprepared. But I remember Tita Joy telling me that Tita Bebop had actually mentioned to her who she felt would take over rep.
Are you learning from this, son?
I never.
Are you learning from it?
People,
No, but just to add to that, your generation kasi, right? After we broke the mold and got out and started putting up our own groups and all of that, taking our learnings, our painful learnings from a very familial, territorial company, we really pushed for professionalizing this industry. And eventually, you notice now that your generation can jump from any theater company
Yeah.
to other. So, I mean, I put up trumpets, but after a few years, hindi ko na masabi trumpeter yan.
Yeah.
Kasi next thing I know, they're
Now
in
you
rep.
can't anymore.
They're
You
in,
really can't.
Yeah, they're in Resorts World. They're in, I mean,
Yeah, you
wala
really
na.
can't.
Kasi professional siya.
Yeah.
And that was, ironically, that was Bebop's main dream, to put up an industry. And I think that's the reason why we argue that she should get a National Artist Award. Because though people say that she didn't contribute to Philippine theater, she taught us how to create an industry. We are offsprings. All the theater companies that were put up came out of Rep. Most came out of Rep.
All, if not
Yeah.
majority of them.
Majority came out of Rep. So that is her contribution. She didn't know it.
Yeah.
That was her.
Actually, I
training.
think the Bibot has a quote about this whole debate about Filipinos playing English. And what did she say? You know this. You remember this? When she told you,
I remember
if you
when
are
I
a
was sober.
Filipino speaking in an English role, it's still a Filipino.
Yeah, okay. I know Rep has been criticized for that and made fun of, but at the end of the day, we're still Filipinos doing the show. Sure, it's foreign material, but that's all it is. Your orchestra is local, your actors are local, your designers are local. Everything is local. The only thing,
Sensibilities are Filipino.
the only thing that is foreign is the material.
She believed in this is what I learned from, like I've told you many times, the universality. She was always into the universality. She believed in the universality of New Simon.
You know why
it's a
why
message.
Repertory
Yeah.
ended up doing English theater? Their first production was
It
Tagalog.
was Tagalog.
Yeah, I saw
Which
that.
one?
Miss Julie.
Miss Julie.
Oh,
Rolando
was that it?
Rolando.
It was
It was
a
Tagalog.
It was
Yeah.
Filipino.
Ah.
And then followed up by
Yeah.
Love.
But because she is a commercial, she was a businesswoman more than anything, right? That was the famous, often told story of Bebop, that there were 7 people in the audience.
Yes.
Two of which
Six
were
yata. Six.
her driver.
Yes, her
and-
maid.
yeah.
We got
So
that
she,
story.
because of that Tagalog play failing, she immediately adapted and shifted to Western plays. Because she felt like if she was going to build an industry, it wasn't going to happen doing Filipino plays. The many times she did this Filipino plays, it was because at that time, bago pa lang ang Filipino writers. So we're not enough material.
Yeah.
But we've gone a long way over the last, 30 years.
But I remember she also said, I remember
Your case,
hearing her.
40.
No, but I remember hearing her say, why would I do Tagalog when there are other companies who do it better?
Yes, I heard.
Remember?
Her say that,
I've
yes.
heard her say that.
I heard her say
and
that.
so she goes, PETA does that excellently. So why would I
Why
even
would I do
bother?
that?
So I'm going to do what I understand. And that was what set Repertory differently.
Not pretentious.
So
It's
it
not
was
pretentious.
basically those who prefer this kind of material,
Can go
who
to-
cannot go to New York, you have it right there. Sure, it's performed by Filipino actors, but she trained us in such a way that we could do any role. We could put on the British accent, we could put on
We
the American
could do
accent.
that easy.
We
We could do
could-
a British accent now.
We
You
could
always
do
put up
it.
a British accent, and then 15 minutes through, you forget your
When
British
he gets
accent
tired.
already. When you
No,
get
but-
drunk
I
and
can
new.
attest to that.
Yeah, but we were trained
Well,
like
I'm sorry. I do that.
you do
Your
that.
default
sweetheart.
is British. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think I'm
You
allowed.
do. You
Is
do.
this of any
And
interest to you,
I
Ron?
get that. I get that a lot when people ask me, why do you speak English so well? Did you grow up in the States? I go, no. I grew up in the theater. And a lot of my ANOAs, the good thing about the theater is that you learn. Because you learn about things. Like, if you're doing a musical about Fiddler, then you learn about
about
the
Jewish
Jews.
culture.
You learn about, you have to do the research, and you realize there's so much learning that people don't realize that. People don't realize that when you go into the theater, it is an education. And I have learned how to speak a certain way because I had to speak in a certain way. I've had to learn accents, and you research it.
It's amazing that we picked up on the British accent.
We picked up on
I
it,
have
but then
no
we
idea
had.
why.
I remember Howard Collins would be helping me with the British accent.
I have no idea.
Benita would be helping me.
And then we had to do Southern, Little Foxes.
Little Foxes, we had to learn
We
the
had to
Southern
do Southern.
accent.
And
So
the funny thing is, son, we were good.
we did
I
it well.
I don't know if we can do it now. I'm speaking for
I
myself.
told you can only do it 15 minutes, and then you go
You
back
get
to
tired.
American.
But we had to adapt. I mean,
But it was amazing that we could.
we could. We had to learn it.
Yeah, we had to learn it.
We had to learn it.
Yeah.
And we had to.
We were
It
thrown
was
in
just
there.
Even Unix.
we had to learn.
Sink or swim. Well, Junix
Sink or
always had a wonderful British Bisaya accent.
Yeah, sometimes it would
Dugay
be
ka na sa
Bisaya.
London, Bisaya ka mangyako.
But we had to learn it because when Bebop would stage an English play, we all had to learn the British accent.
Yeah.
And when Bebop would stage an American play, we all had to learn the American accent. So that's how I learned. So that's when people ask me, why do you speak English so well? Did you grow up in the States? I go, no, I grew up in the theater.
So funny.
Grew up, and that's good.
I have no idea what what influence? Although I have the story when and I've told the story that when we were doing P.S. Your God is Dead, a play, and then that day we saw a movie called Norma Ray with Sally Fields.
Okay. Oh, I
and
remember
she was
that.
and she was Southern.
Okay.
And that night, strangely enough, both our characters had Southern accents.
We were supposed to be in Brooklyn.
We were in Brooklyn, but she was so good that suddenly, for some undecided reason, both our characters
Yeah.
had
And
Southern.
of course,
I have a cuento later on the PS Your Cat is Dead. Talking about PS, I need to piss. Can we take a break?
Okay. Okay. What binds the three of us if we've known each other forever? I've met these people when I was. I met Jaime when I was 15.
Okay, I may be the older one, but he's the clumsy one, and you can see his motor movements are starting to fade.
I met Jaime at 15. I met Audie at 17.
Going on 70.
Going on 17. So, and like I said, in the beginnings of rap, we were inseparable. Our group was inseparable. Like I said, we would go everywhere together. We would never do things separately. So the moment we had a break, we're off to Baguio. On the chicken bus. Remember when we didn't have transportation, we would get on the chicken bus. We didn't have money. Unless we had to depend on people with cars. So the only ones with cars were Audie, Mikey, Mari.
You had a driver.
No.
Yeah.
He had that green Toyota.
He had a green Toyota.
And then
With a
Mari
driver.
had the Lance. No, he drove himself.
Oh my God.
At that point, I learned how to.
Yeah. So we were inseparable. So I think that's what binds us. Like we may not see each other, but the moment we get together, we're killing each other.
It's also, I think we have a mutual respect for each
For
other's
each other.
growth.
Yeah.
That
We've seen each other grow it.
Yeah.
We've seen each other struggle. They certainly have seen my life as it unfolds.
At saka tong dalawang tao na to na kaibigan ko, I see their love for the theater talaga. Consistent.
Me, I had to decide whether to push Audie out the window or become his best friend.
And I'm always the middle ground.
And that is the truth.
If you see the three of us in a production together, oh my God, it's constant arguing. Constant.
But
But
it hasn't happened in a
while.
yeah, it hasn't been a
Because I
while.
don't think that
But-
that show could contain it.
But let me. No matter how much we argue, no matter how much we disagree, we still love each other, and it's really professional. And don't throw me the ball. But my thing is, it just shows you how, and I love it because Audie will have an opinion. Mostly Jaime and I disagree with his opinion.
Because it's a wrong opinion.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm the only one who
But-
thinks about money. They never think
Yeah,
about
we never
money.
think money. He thinks money. We're
So
like,
how are
Audie,
you
it's all about
how
money
are
with
you going to exist if you don't have money?
So it's a great argument, and we push each other. So I think I've known these guys, these two, for years. They're still the go-to people. I will call Jaime when I'm in trouble with a role or just to vent. I'll call Audie when I'm in trouble with certain things, and I'll vent with them because I trust them. And they will always be my go-to people. And that, I think, will be there till then. Oh my God, till I'm old. You know, it's that bond we've created and the mutual respect we have for each other. I still have to learn the money aspect, but
And social media now.
And social media.
I am teaching this guy who uses a Nokia to this very day.
at least I have an iPhone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we kind of push each other. So if you have the three of us in a show, it's gonna be a good show. But boy, do we fight!
Watch out for that.
If
Watch out.
We fight till that show closes.
At any rate, there's a violent show. And it's always the right people fighting the wrong people.
Yeah.
Ah.
It's like, hi man, Audie's not gonna go for that. It's not commercial. But my God, we've known each other for what, over 30 years?
It seems longer when you're drunk.
That's true.
And watch out because there's a lot in us pa, and we are not even close to being finished. Just use your imagination. Just use your imagination.
Come on, come to
Your imagination. He's drunk, and I think we should wrap up. We should wrap up because this man is drunk.
If an